All right. Well, my tournament was taking forever to fill, so I just complained on Twitter, and it filled. So I'm glad for that. It's just the solution to all of life's problems. So anyway, we won the die roll. We're gonna go ahead and play first, and this is an interesting hand. We have a temple and a mystic, which is normally pretty reasonable if we have any other land. Not that we don't have another land, makes it a little bit worse. We can play temple and put anything that's not a land in the bottom, and then play mystic. And worst case scenario, we end up, only be able to play Heir of the Wilds until we draw another land. I think this is actually a reasonable keep. It's not a good hand, so I'm gonna mulligan it. This is. Imagine if this was just like a land, and then I probably would keep it. But this is like another land that comes into play like double tapped because I can't even play it in turn 2 necessarily, or rather, can't even play like the guy on turn 2. I think this is close. If I hit another land right away, then I get to play like Heir turn 2, and then my Elvish Mystic is even good. I'm gonna go ahead and mulligan. And now I only have red sources, but I'm gonna go ahead and keep this because we're not gonna go to 5 with this. We can definitely cast, almost certainly cast Rabble Master. If we draw a forest right away, our Heir of the Wilds is very good. And then we have an Ashcloud Phoenix. We can potentially morph or play, depending. Temple of Triumph, okay. Forest me. Mana Confluence, you're kind of like a forest. You're like a forest that hurts. So Mana Confluence isn't usually a land that you are particularly happy to have against a deck with red mana sources in it. So my opponent's clearly Jeskai. Exactly what kind of Jeskai deck is not clear. But we're gonna play out this Rabble Master. And we get our opponent does not apparently have a removal spell, or at least has poorly set stops. That's the answer. It's poorly set stops. So we get our guy. And we'll attack. All right, so Stillwater Cliffs. Whoa. My opponent does not have temples, or does have a million temples. So we're going to play an Ashcloud Phoenix. That's a pretty good draw since my opening hand of lands that can cast my spells. I'm going to pump this guy. The funny thing is, like, getting this extra goblin is actually a pretty big deal. If my opponent is trying to deal with me deal with my raise the alarm. Okay, that's fine. So Jeskai tokens. We now know what's going on with my opponent's deck. And this is a pretty good draw against Jeskai tokens. Ashcloud Phoenix is pretty powerful in this matchup. So is Pelucranos. Both the 4s are pretty powerful in this matchup. Alright, so, just rattling off the lands from my 2-land opener. And we're just gonna continue to get beatdowns. So we could get Jeskai Charmed, you could put our Phoenix on top, you could have Stoke and kill any of my guys. The Stoke is much better against Stormbreath than it is against Ashcloud Phoenix. So we could just have another Raise the Alarm, which is not particularly good. He's just trading with Heir of the Wilds here. Or he can't raise and Stoke now because he doesn't have any red mana. He only has these are white creatures, so they can't convoke for red. He only have the 1 red untapped. All right, well. So here, our sideboard plan. We're gonna take out Lightning Strike. I think we're gonna take out Crater's Claws. A couple of Crater's Claws are fairly weak here. We don't know if our opponent has like Mantis Rider. Some of them have Mantis Rider like in the sideboard, but we definitely want our Arc Lightnings. And I like Barrage of Boulders here as well. The weak cards, I think Sarkhan is fairly weak here, and Stormbreath Dragon is actually also not that good. Lightning Strike is weird because Lightning Strike and Crater's Claws are like pretty good against Rabble Master and against against Seeker of the Way, both of which are actually very good against you overall. You don't want Chandra. What am I doing? So I think my worst cards. Boonsater is actually also fairly bad. Rabble Master's not at its best, but it's still just a card that they need to answer. We're gonna take out one Boonsater, I think, and then I think we're gonna take out one of the 5 casting cost cards. I think Sarkhan, because maybe we want both Sarkhans actually. Because the token deck is reasonably well positioned to attack your planeswalkers. Maybe put in Destructive Revelry to deal with. Yeah, we probably want one Revelry to deal with Ascendancy, because Ascendancy is very powerful to get going. We have a lot of ways to actually deal with the tokens, but I think that having one way, maybe 2 ways to deal with Ascendancy is pretty valuable. We don't want to just have Revelries in our deck because a bunch of Revelries because they only deal with Ascendancy. So I think that we're probably better off having just the one. And going with this sort of configuration. I'm not sure what combination of like burn spells that I want, but these, it is important to be able to deal with Rabble Master, and Seeker of the Way is also quite good against you. So I think that having Critter's Claws and Lightning Strike in at least small numbers makes some sense. But your better removal is obviously Arc Lightning. So anyway, let's go ahead and try this. All right, and this is another unplayable hand. we have 8 effective dual lands in our 24 land deck, but we're gonna mulligan here. This is a much better hand, clearly. We're gonna go ahead and keep. So Temple of Triumph, scrying. All right, we're gonna play Temple of Abandon. Looking for Heir of the Wilds is not really what we're looking for. We much prefer a more substantial card. Put that in the bottom. We already have Heir and Rattleclaw in our hand, so I feel like I don't want to keep just another 2-drop. So I actually feel like I want to play Heir here rather than Rattleclaw. It's more stable against if I attack next turn and my opponent has a Raise the Alarm. I would much rather have an Heir of the Wilds that it has to just fully trade with than have a Rattleclaw. I also can potentially morph Rattleclaw next turn, which can give me an explosive just burst of mana at some point. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this guy. Also may just end up Arc Lightning next turn. If I do draw like Stormbreath Dragon or something, I'll have wanted my Rattleclaw in play, and he has Lightning Strike. Okay, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and morph this. Cast face down. We have Rattleclaw. And this is the reason why I was hesitant to board in more than one Destructive Revelry. Right now, it's just dead in my hand, and we really want to have proactive cards when we can. All right, and this is Mantis Rider. Okay, well this is one of the reasons that Arc Lightning is great, because it can kill the Mantis Rider in addition to be able to wipe out tokens. Boonsater, that's pretty good, but we're gonna kill this. Okay. So knowing that he has Mantis Rider in his deck against me after sideboarding, I may want to bring back in Sarkhan if I lose this game. There's the Ascendancy. All right. Well, we now have a Revelry target at least. I'm kind of tempted to. It only pumps it by. I can only get 1 mana out of flipping it. I'm just going to bestow this. An end hostilities here would be very sad for me. But I want to get him for 6. We still have the Revelry to kill the Ascendancy. So I feel like in a pretty good spot here. Our opponent doesn't really have anything going on at the moment. Another Ascendancy. All right. Well, if he does get any creatures, they're going to be huge. I do have the Revel to deal with one of them, but he is getting to loot from the Ascendancy, so I'm guessing his hand is... I'm trying to figure out what his hand could be. Maybe it's just a bunch of land. Maybe it's like treasure cruises. He just looted away a Lightning Strike. Well, he must have drawn that this turn if he didn't Lightning Strike my guy. I'm a little confused by that. Alright, well, I'm just going to go ahead and play some more guys. I mean, I guess he could, like, have End Hostilities here, and I wouldn't want to play my Elvish Mystics, but they're not really going to do very much on their own anyway, is my guess. Against a token deck. One, two, three. What is this? Nope. Windscarred Crag. All right. Yeah, this guy must just not have temples. There's just so many gain life lands. Well, there is a temple. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have 4 of each temple. I'm quite surprised to see this many of the gain life dual lands. Maybe that's more common than I think, but seems like a lot. We don't quite have lethal on board. He just sent me a message. Oh. Looks like he is defeated. So my draw's actually pretty bad at this point, but it looks like his draw is worse. I'm just gonna try to kill him now. All right. Well, there we go. We took him down. We had some pretty good fortune with our draws after our opening hand in game 1, and then our opponent didn't really have a hand that did very much this game. The bestow from Boonsater was excellent here. It did give us like a substantial threat that our opponent wasn't able to deal with. Looks like he drew Lightning Strike after. It must have been he drew Lightning Strike after that bestow turn. So bestowing while he was tapped out there worked out very well for us, and our opponent just kind of had ascendancies and not much interaction, it appears. So anyway, that is, and again, that's one thing that I do like about this sort of more straightforward, aggressive version of sort of just a green deck in standard right now, because if like this Boonsater were, say, Courser Crewfix, my opponent would have had way more time to sort of set things up with Jeskai Ascendancy, and manage to sort of come back and win potentially. So anyway, hiccup. Let's go on to the next match.